A sense of fluttering has begun in the depths of my stomach. Not only was I the first Trascon on Earth, but this is to be my first encounter with a human that does not involve a dogfight. This time, it is to be civilized. I almost feel like welcoming him in. Welcome back to the Daniel's Nemesis podcast, reading chapter 24, William's Schemes. Do you remember the days before the internet? When you could write something and not regret it immediately, the moment you click on send. Imagine writing something, waiting almost 20 years and then clicking on publish. The regret is intense. But that's what this podcast is, and is something that I keep doing time after time as I read out a novel that is, well, it's old enough that it would probably be abandoning TikTok, thinking that there's too many kids on it. And why did it never get famous? XBook is the surreal story of a fighter pilot stopping an alien invasion in December 1918, just as the war has finished. Looked at from another point of view, XBook is the story of the leader of an entire alien race wondering how best to get his citizens onto Earth. It's kind of two books rolled into one as the same events get scrutinized from different angles. One is very inward-looking, the other is just batshit surreal. After reading the chapter, and I'm very happy to be reintroducing this element, I analysed the chapter, trying to work out what was going on in my mind a couple of decades ago when this got written. So, what's happened so far? Attempting a small invasion, having first given notice, the Trascons lost out in a counterattack from the humans. Commandeering one of those alien fighter craft, our human protagonist Ginger is now on his way into space to take on those aliens single-handedly. As the Trascon leader William launches a massive invasion, Ginger is unable to do anything as his stolen ship is caught in a tractor beam and is being pulled towards the alien fleet. Just remember, this is fiction, always fiction. Logic is as logic does. Chapter 24, William Schemes. Drickkill, at least I believe that to be his name, turns around to me and says, "The Smooth is just coming in for docking, oh, ruler who should be ruler of everythingness, but at this present time is not. I am, by this time, back on the bridge of our ship. I look around it. There are people hustling everywhere, every wall banked by hundreds of huge monitors. Monitors telling all the critical analyses of the ship, all the statistics of each of the engines, food supplies, water, stellar chart maps. And right now, we have some pods outside, watching the entry of the Smooth containing one, we presume, human. We have tracking devices on the Smooth, now that it is within a distance that they can reach, pulling in the Smooth. The tracking devices, originally created for any struggling passenger vessels between our huge ships, have turned their uses towards bringing in this thing. Then we can capture and hopefully monitor this human, press it for its battle plans down there on Earth where, right now, a huge-scale attack has been launched. Every major city that ever has been or presently is, they are all under attack right now. Smooths will fly in, attacking those buildings of importance, crushing them from their bases, toppling them, attacking from above to destroy that which is below. The military transporters will then unleash the next phase, which will be huge ground assault vehicles that will roam, destroying all civilians, obliterating them. This stage will be accompanied by a large army of ground troops who will be able to enter the houses of residents nearby and kill and maim in that way. It is our plan. Who started this one? We gave them an ultimatum. They responded in violence. We need you. But it seems that the only way forward is to get rid of any threat. We attack only the cities, at least in this phase. That will only be a relatively small decrease in population size. If we have to, we can still use our ships as residential ships in order to live whilst we rebuild, if that is the necessary measure. It is unfortunate for us that such important buildings and business and political centres are located in such high levels of population. Or maybe it should be fortunate. I don't know. It is one side of human culture that I still hope to observe. However, these businesses and political centres will ultimately be ground to a halt. I glare at the Drickkill. Yet, Drickkill adds quickly, unfortunately. Yes, well, thank you, say I, hating this need to impress superiors in order to aid their own selfish desires for control of power. They can have it. No, sire, thank you. Indeed. I turn now to Skirnage. Skirnage, once it is docked, make sure that a security team is there. I am curious to find out who this human is. I wonder what he will look like. There must be individualities in his build, his facial makeup. You see diagrams of humans, but they are basic line drawings. You believe them all to be the same. Sire, the team headed by Yurtjuk is already there. I pause. Right. Acknowledging the fact once more that this type of warfare that we are about to conduct is totally different from what we are used to, I close my eyes to try and visualize how it may occur. I want to try and be ready for this. After all, I will be in the driving seat, pretty much. I guess this is a way of psyching myself up. A nervousness hits my stomach whenever I come anywhere near this line of thought. But we are here now, and there is no going back. This is just my way of preparing myself, trying to anticipate the worst, so that I can deal with it when it comes. I go through battle plans, plans that are still half thought through, plans that are still not ready, but images that are not entirely controlled by me start flicking through my thoughts. I start seeing things happen which I can't stop, can't get away from. An army commander, leading in his team, forcing an entry. Scrambling through the doorway, faced by a flight of stairs, someone standing there, aghast, shot straight away in the forehead, the arm, the leg, the centre of the body. Crumpling up, head hitting and bouncing off the banister, falling first sideways, then sliding down the stairways. The pitiful body doesn't even manage to reach the bottom of the stairs, though soon the pools of blood will slink their way down the remaining stairs until at least that part of the once human reaches the bottom. Though this is too far into the future. The squad of 5 are all in the house. They split. 2 journey upstairs. There are 3 rooms upstairs. There are 2 empty bedrooms and 1 empty bathroom. There is an entrance to an attic, but 1 small explosive will sort that out. Later, Downstairs, the other three have made their way along the empty corridor. Though they do not need to travel, as coming out of the first room that joins onto this mini corridor is a human woman. Seeing this atrocity of a nightmare facing her, she tries to push her children back into the room. Her head disintegrating into splintered bone, flying to the edges of the room, leaving a tail of red sparkles. A leg is shot off, and the body just collapses as if pushed down. The children hide. It starts to snow outside. A white Christmas. Santa had come and brought many gifts, but instead of Santa now are two colours, red and white, the two colours merging as the snow falls on the pools of blood that are everywhere outside. The squad, once 3, now rejoined by its other 2 members, are 5 again, and split once more. The other rooms are searched while 2 go into the drawing room. Behind a sofa, the first child is dispatched off quickly and easily, while the second, having pulled the table over to hide behind and to be used as a shield, has a gun pointed at its head. Spectacularly, the gun fails to fire. This does not matter, as a knife is pulled. Both eyes are pierced, as if by not seeing the violence and damage, there will be no pain felt. The knife is stabbed into the throat at the side, behind the windpipe, ripped out, slicing the skin, partly forcing the windpipe out of its home. The blood gushes onto the remaining skin. Thrashing and kicking, the child manages to topple the table, crashing it down onto its body. What could be going through this child's mind right now? Confusion? Pain? But nothing to match the feelings of emptiness right now. Perhaps questions such as what? Why? Who? Why can no one save me? Why did I not save anyone else? Perhaps it feels let down right now. Perhaps it is happy. It can see the grip loosening. The pressure is soon to be released, and everything can go away. But what would a child really need to feel that it is running away from? Maybe it looks at the aliens and wonders what they are, perhaps feeling that the pain is distorting perception and that they do not look like they do. Perhaps the pain is too much, that not all of it can be felt. Perhaps there are no thoughts floating through the child's mind. Perhaps there is just an animal-like instinct to try to hang on, to not die, to want the pain to go away. Is the child frightened right now? Is it calm? Maybe it feels saddened by something so shallow, like it did not get a chance to play with the new toys that it got today. Maybe it thinks that the Germans have invaded. Maybe it still hopes that Mummy and Daddy can come and save it. Maybe it doesn't realize that it's about to die. It does not understand what death is. It thinks that it will still pull through, that the pain, whilst intense, is only temporary. Maybe soon it will go away. Maybe everything is in extreme slow motion, every single detail to be picked out and agonizingly scrutinized. Wonder what this child thinks as it dies. Maybe all this flows through the child's mind. Maybe nothing does. It does not matter though, because thoughts and willpower can never do anything much. Unlike an adult, the child cannot cope with this for too long. Eventually it stumbles to a halt. The rest of the rooms are stated to be empty. there is no more threat in this house. A small departure gift burns out the interior of the house. Elsewhere along the street, houses are blackened or burning. Very few are left unscathed. These are the houses that have not been seen to yet. And they will, though they are likely to be empty of people now, as their corpses litter the gardens and the streets in their attempt to flee. A Merry Christmas to you all. No, that cannot be how it happens. But why? Why would it happen? That is not why they would be sent down. They would be sent down for what? They must show force, but not like that. I pull Scrutinised over, but I have no idea how to form the question I wish to ask him. He looks at me, waiting for me to say something. Eventually, I ask, is it right that innocent people will get hurt in all this? It does not quite convey my feelings right now. They are more complex, concerning issues around, I don't know, stopping all this, carrying on regardless, toning it down, going full steam ahead, ensuring victory, hoping that victory will come at little cost to the humans. Wondering who would actually be guilty, and of what. We will be fine, sire. No, not us, the humans. Sire, it is the price of warfare. The humans have a choice. They can stop it. They had the chance to stop this, yet they chose not to. Let them see what happens, then they will stop. This is warfare. They know all about warfare. Let them be big-headed enough to believe that they can stop this. Let them learn that we are not going to go away. What other choice do we have? We are the victims here. We are homeless. The response we had to our warnings, our needs for help, sire, was to go into warfare. We are the victims here, sire. Scrutinised has not answered my question. The price of warfare? Is that good or bad, though? I look at his retreating figure. I feel alone. Am I the only person here who is beginning to wonder, could there be another answer? If there is, what is it? Do we need to go into warfare? We are the victims. They did not respond to our calls for help. But slowly this dawns on me. When did we actually call for help? Have our intentions become confused by the humans? If they did we allow that by not making our intentions clear enough? He has arrived, announces Scrutinised. What shall I tell the security team to do? Scrutinised has distracted me, and my line of thought has now vanished. Yet I'm still left with an empty feeling, a feeling that we need to do something else right now. Tell them to let him make the first move. In fact, put up the docking bay on screen. Soon, our forces will be approaching Earth's atmosphere. There is still time yet, though. Straight away, your supremeness or supremacity, says Drickkill, jumping to attention. Over-eager, he hits his hand on his console as he brings it up to salute. The faintest glimmer in his eye gives away the pain, though the loud bang gave away the act. There is a faint snigger from Scrutinised, audible only as he has now stood right behind me. I have noticed a tension towards Drickkill from Scrutinised. I think there is some kind of power battle going on between the two. Unfortunately, I don't know either of them well enough to be able to confirm this. Skirnage, however, turns his attention back to the screen. Nothing is happening. Skirnage feels a need to report this to me. He doesn't seem to be doing much, sire. Yes, I can see that. Do you not think that I have eyes? Look, I have 6 of them. Count them if you have to. You may have gathered by now that I do not have 6 eyes. For some reason, you can never get a point across until you exaggerate it. Just trying to be helpful, sire. If you truly do want to be helpful, you can just be quiet. Yes, sire. You have just disobeyed a direct order. I was just acknowledging you, making sure that you knew that I knew. I walk away. For some reason, we never built an arena in which to conduct political discussions. Instead, the bridge here began to form the arena for such political discussion and arguments. Everyone around me who serves to maintain the ship also acts as a politician. I believe that it was started as a scam in order to double wages. But no sessions or meetings or forums are ever called into place. No agendas are ever set. It is a case of whoever happens to be around involves themselves, if they choose. If anyone feels they need to call up a discussion, then one will start. I don't know if that's how it should work. That's just the way that it works. In this secondary arena of politics, that small piece of diplomacy sticks out from Skirnage. I respect and obey the power that it has. It is fair enough, and for simplicity's sake, I'll just pretend that I didn't hear that last little sentence. Skirnage nods, knowing that it has sunk in. I glare back. For some reason, a glare is the only thing I can say at the moment. I have been doing it for a while now. What do you think he's doing, Master of the Universe? Asks Drickkill. I wonder. I have no idea. I imagine myself in such a situation. Probably panicking. Wondering what the hell he's got himself into, I should imagine. Regretting his foolhardy bravado. Wishing he was never born. I wish he was never born. I wish the entire human race had never been born. But that's an entirely different story. I realize that for part of that, I may have just been talking about myself. Skirnage speaks at the risk of his own life. Shall I tell the security team to go in and get him out? Pause. Who knows how long a pause lasts? No, like I said, let the human make the first move. It always amuses me, the way that they react to extreme dangers. Yes, sire. In fact, get on the radio to him. I have a little message to tell him. Drickkill gets the radio ready for me. Yes, sir, wonderfully wonderful, he says. What message are you going to give him, sire? Asks Skirnage. I decide not to form a message in my mind. Instead, I'll just let it flow out of my mouth. The right words will come. You'll find out. Looking forward to hearing it, sire, says Skirnage. Here we are, your majesty, the microphone for you, says Drickkill whilst passing it over to me. I look at it, mumbling, thank you, whilst temporarily forgetting myself. A sense of fluttering has begun in the depths of my stomach. Not only was I the first Trascon on Earth, but this is to be my first encounter with a human that does not involve a dogfight. This time, it is to be civilized. I almost feel like welcoming him in. Ready then. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. I pause once more. I clear my throat. I feel the need to tell the human what it is to expect, to welcome and yet to threaten, to describe his surroundings and yet to scare him, to find out who he is, why he is here, to know everything about him, to know why he is now making his mark in our lives. I speak into the microphone. Who are you? Is the pathetic sentence that stumbles out of me. Freak! I wish I had let someone else do it now. But it was a chance I wanted to have. I resent myself for fucking it up, making myself look stupid. Freak. True. I will be faceless to him on the other end of the microphone. But I won't be faceless to myself. And I look round and have to make excuses, say, I fucked up, repeat it, make sure that they know. The others who heard pretend to make the best of a bad situation. They look in awe. Freak of fucking nature! I am intensely embarrassed by myself. Some small part of my brain has just been insulting me. But I've said what I said. Who are you? This is treating the human as a being, as someone else, not as some kind of faceless monster. Something to be needlessly destroyed, even though he is the enemy, I guess. That was brilliant, sire. Yes, I'm really sure that put the willies into their pathetic human. Lord, amazing of something. Drickle has run out of ideas. Skernage tries to conceal a laugh, but it doesn't matter. You see, this is the bad side of people, pouring niceties on you. It makes the shit side of you feel worse. I look at them, expecting to say something like, well, we all make mistakes, wanting them to say, that was shit. And instead, they exaggerate the situation. By seeing my embarrassment, they try to mask it. Well, I know what they are doing. Instead of masking, they are revealing for everyone to see. I mumble, yes, I'm sure it did, before walking over to one of the monitors. Freak. Oh, sire, I'm not sure. I know it did. Sire, wonderfully wonderful, and has absolutely nothing to be afraid of as everyone else is so scared of him. This time it's Skernage, really putting the boot into the bucket. Yes, well, anyway. How long until our ships arrive in the Earth's atmosphere? About 25 minutes, oh jolly bringer of ultimate doom. Marvelous. This is an arena for politics. In light of my politicians, I begin to wonder, should I start going this alone? After all, who is in charge here? General notes.
I can't defer the author this text and then ask you to have your own interpretations. Dissecting that's going to take a whole series by itself. He's not the first to embarrass himself. Arguably, Drickle embarrassed himself further. It's very possible, therefore, that in the early versions of the story, William, like all Trascons, had 6 eyes. As a throwaway comment to describe William from some point in 97 or 98, that then became a line of dialogue I had to keep and create a new context for. Previous chapter was very exposing of Ginger, but not very revealing. Maybe a bit was added here or there, but whatever already existed was almost never deleted. And we witnessed how the two distance themselves when they land on Earth,
with William getting out and Skirnage staying in the craft. The chapter previous to the last one set up what was to have happened in the chapter before that one. This is presumably how Ginger learned of the oncoming invasion. Yes, the way that I read things out does emphasise certain emotions or motivations behind Skirnage that, in text alone, could be read a bit differently. Not to mention the cold, cruel distance of his visions. And I don't go anywhere near the disturbing ideas Patrick Bateman has for the rat in American Psycho. This chapter has a lot of dialogue from pretty much the original script, back when it was originally a script and not a novel. I don't know how to help Ginger, but taking this section away hasn't helped anything. So perhaps I should just move on from that, for now. Previously, we've seen William and Skirnage in close proximity to each other in one of the small fighter craft. Death of the author is actually getting really fucking annoying. This isn't even an ideological distance anymore, though that is certainly present. But he is mocked for something quite reasonable. I found it an interesting challenge to take this cringy dialogue without any nuance and create new motivations. Well, the last chapter was a doozy, but he asks a relevant question. His visions are not those of a happy invasion. That line about having 6 eyes, though, didn't really manage to recontextualise that well, did I? It may not be helping Ginger, but let's just look at what happened today. It's not going away. Today's is not a difficult chapter to comprehend. Notice the difference in how Skirnage speaks to William compared to new character Dritkill. Basically, what was blunt conversation about invasions, killing humans and tormenting Ginger became 3 characters fronting to each other, hiding what they really felt and pushing William towards more things that he doesn't want. The timeline isn't great. It's unavoidable when I have to make one choice out of many. Yes, it's back. Skirnage's speech about halfway through this chapter really makes me wonder what would have happened were he the supreme leader instead of William. We got to see the awkward interactions that happened therein. Fuck, I'm confusing myself now. Glamorama beats me as I recall there being pages devoted to just one instant of terror. Don't let my interpretations affect yours. I'll be fucked if I know anymore. I created some weird borders for myself. At least he's an easier character to examine than Ginger. I used the early dialogue as the frame, and then painted as much as I could in between. I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. Back to William, this chapter shows the distance between William and the rest of his race. But that's the background. What about what happens in this actual chapter? Even William wants to get distance from his own self by the end of the chapter. I'm still anticipating William's arrival in the podcast. William's separation is very apparent now. What have I missed? I guess that's the danger with hype. Where do you think Skirnage is going in this story? I've always felt that good art requires good borders. Was this podcast a bad idea? The dialogue just never changed from the very earliest versions of this story. This is a social and personal distance as well. Who is Ginger? And they are a bit of an American Psycho, Glamorama deep dive into one moment of horror. So, he's envisioning the invasion. I've talked about this before as well. The Psychologist's chair. I don't have a lot to say about William in this section. However, what about Ginger? Last chapter, we saw Ginger all alone on the alien craft in space. In terms of distance, that's probably about as physically distanced as anyone can get from each other in this book. When he's at his most Ginger is when he's away from everybody else. At least so far into the novel. Flying in the air battle to defeat the first wave allowed Ginger to have intense visions. Being in the hallway outside of Flight Lieutenant Johnson's office seems to cause him intense pain. And then there was the previous chapter. Perhaps we can get clues as to who Ginger is. If we can get to the core of Ginger, then I'm sure that this is going to... Ultimately hope is to get Ginger out of all of this stuff. But anyway, looking at Ginger and finding out what it is that we can do. So, let's examine some information. Beginning with Ginger getting intensely paranoid about whoever came up with the idea of the moon being made of cheese, which does seem like a silly thing for Ginger to get worried about. But again, I've kind of covered all of this. It doesn't matter too much as I'm going to bury a little bit in. And there's a lot of scenes that could be memories, but it could just be strange dreams. They're helping him to figure out what we would now know of as radar, but is something that would not have been known back in 1918. After all, radar was invented during the Second World War, not the First World War. Interesting. About carrots helping people to see. During the Second World War. Basically, the Brits had invented radar, and radar was allowing the Brits didn't want the Germans finding out about this new technology. And carrots. Carrots were good for the... So this is propaganda that they fed. It's just a way to deflect from radar, from the technology that has been invented. Then we come to his relationships, which can be a bit of a murky area with Ginger. Whereas previously he seemed to lack commitment towards Deirdre, here he is much more ready to throw himself into the ring. I mean, there's a lot of talk about I have never desired children. This, I guess this was just my way of showing Ginger's commitment. Having a child seemed to be a stronger commitment than marriage. That Ginger has already stated quite clearly. Around in a lot of areas throughout this flight, and I think a lot of these locations were based on areas that I used to live in, confused through real dreams that I had that were then exported into this book. I do a lot of real life circumstances, real life dreams, and I just basically put them on top of Ginger, let him deal with it. Maybe that was my kind of original psychologist chair, my original therapy. Something that we'll explore more next time, actually. Ginger, and looking at it from Ginger's point of view was perhaps a way for me to do it. Ginger's floating around through space, and as we know, there's not a lot of oxygen. The Trascons also need oxygen. And so we can assume that with the Trascons wanting to come to Earth, they would need as much oxygen as you or I would, any human now and then. You've got many planets to choose from. Choose the planet that is the most. Oxygen levels might be a little bit. Might be something that explains. Maybe he's not quite getting. Like he's at high altitude. Or perhaps he's getting too much oxygen to the body. To be honest, I don't quite know how that would work. Some of the more obvious aspects of this chapter. We see that he becomes aware of himself fighting in the Great War, confronting memories that he has obviously or put aside or done something to avoid. But we are asking the question, who is Ginger? And himself, confronting not just who he is on the inside, but how he appears on the outside as well. There's lots of descriptions of his physical appearance and how Holly reacts to his physical appearance. It's something that becomes an ongoing theme throughout this book. Not just fresh scars, not just fresh wounds, but some of which are still bleeding. How did they get there? The whole point about not much of that was in the original draft of the script. That's for certain. Well, it's been a blessedly quiet episode. So what do we have to look forward to next time? Ginger has a bad day. Well, it was my bad day, and I gave it to him. You can do that in stories. Until next time, TTFN! And just in case you're wondering, all text was written by me, Daniel's Nemesis, and XBook is purely a work of fiction and is not meant to be based on anyone or any events at all. The music was also by me, Daniel's Nemesis, as was the image that accompanies this podcast. It sucks, doesn't it? But there we go.